Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. C, my weekly meeting and my weekly video for you. Had an interesting podcast I just finished about women and resiliency, and it's going to be coming out here in about a week, so I will be sure to share it with you. We talked about a lot of things with regard to failure and mentoring and the ability to look at the gifts that failure are giving you. And I know that's a tough thing to be able to look at, because the one question they asked me was why does failure have the bad connotation that it does? Why do we have such heartburn with failure? That's an interesting explanation that I think might merit some further discovery for us, because it's a leadership conundrum, believe it or not. And the idea that where judgment words come from are the power that we give them. Things like money, things like exam. I tell you the word exam and suddenly everybody panics. Failure, pain, certain words that culturally we have as they're bad. The answer is no, they're not. But we culturally give them because of what's happened to us. For example, if you have a test that you first took as a child and you didn't do well. I remember a particular test that, yes, old Doc C got her first C in Calculus BC in high school, senior year. It was fabulous. And then the F came, guys. Let me tell you, yes, it was traumatic. Yours truly was valedictorian eventually, but that first F, that's what went to the refrigerator door. I'm just saying. And it was awful. It was ugly. It was painful. And I understand what my parents were trying to teach me. They were trying to teach me about failure, which is what I'm trying to teach you, that it was no big deal. In order to get to success, you got to learn. And learning about calculus was painful for me. And I had to get a tutor, and I had to stay after school, and I had to work with the teacher. And I really had to roll up my sleeves to be able to get to the other side of failure. And it was tough work. I remember having nightmares, getting chased by integrals and derivatives and all kinds. It was awful. And the ulcers came eventually because I was really hanging on tight. And so part of in answering that question today is, well, where does the stigma of failure come from? And that is a really good answer, because I don't know if you know this, and this is something that our colleagues in K through 12 know, is leadership is your first experience as a child. And you don't know, according to Jean Piaget and the psychologists, that your psyche, everything in your brain is really formed between the ages of about 5 and 7. But you as a child aren't yet old enough. You don't have the gift of reason, is what they call it. And that usually comes about 9, 10, or 11. To have any type of judgment if it's good or bad, for you, it just is. And you look at the leaders who are in your life that are teaching you. And the leaders are about your parents, your grandparents, your teachers. And if you don't have a positive experience with failure and judgment words, you're going to grow up thinking that's your yardstick, good or bad, because there's no judgment at that time. It is what it is. And at that age, I grew up with the Catholic nuns, and I was very ill at the time. And their equation to me was, you are being punished as a child because God gave you the gift of illness. And I have grown up with that in a lifetime. And that to me was my first understanding of failure, going, what does a 5-year-old know about being sick and why I was being punished? But that was the Catholic dogma back then. And I grew up thinking that it was a fearful thing instead of a loving and a wonderful experience with religion and certain things. And I internalized this my whole life and struggle with that soundtrack, that recording that we have in our brain from such an early age. And so I want to be able to offer you a way to rewrite that soundtrack. And that's what we talked about in the podcast. And again, it'll come out next week. It was pretty epic to be able to look at that heartfelt emotion of being able to, we can stand up, we can own it, we can decide that we're no longer going to give it any power. So change the stigma of failure, change the stigma, that word exam y'all like so much, change the stigma of money, of things that we normally put a bad connotation to. And the point is, words are just words until we give them context and until we give them the power over us. Because if I called something an exercise, your exam scores would go up by 20%. Why? There's something horrible about that 4-letter word: pain, work, exam, test. They're all 4-letter words for a reason. And so if we can redefine those 4-letter words, redefine that failure is just a gift. Failure is something you got to figure things out as you learn how to do it. We didn't come out of the womb walking. We didn't come out of med school being a surgeon right away. We didn't come out of leadership school knowing everything. I was a musician. I didn't learn how to do everything right. Matter of fact, I don't know if y'all know this, but I was dismissed from the program my sophomore year in college because I wasn't good enough. So the point was, how do you deal with failure and redefine it? I want you to think about that this week when we're looking at this. The stigma of failure. There isn't a stigma. It's just a gift. We have to redefine it, reframe it, and look at the gifts that it's giving to us. Because failure is only failure permanently if we allow it to stay failure. You got that F in school? Change it. You had that dismissal from the program 30 years later. I changed it. You have that, you get fired from your job? Fix it. Change it. Define it. Move it. You lost the love of your life? Redefine it. Get a do-over. Have the ability to do it again until you get it right. We have the power. We have the choice. It's just a question of, are you going to act on it? Only time will tell. Here's my goal in life. I do not want to have any regrets. When the game is over, whether it's tomorrow or years from now, I want to know that I lived my life with grace, purpose, and love until the day I die. And that's what I wish for you. So have a wonderful week. And let's start redefining some of those vocabulary words. Failure's not a bad thing. It's fabulous. Let me teach you how. Have a great week. See you around the quad. Bye.